Finding Fernway isn't just about miles traveled. It's about satisfying a desire for exploration, forging our own stories, leaving our own marks upon the earth. It's about embracing the wild, the unpredictable, and the extraordinary. Join us as we embark on this odyssey as we find Fernway, chasing sunsets and borders, experiences and adventures. Be a part of the legacies that we are building 1 mile at a time. Presented by the Land Cruiser Heritage Museum in Salt Lake City, inspiring countless adventures. Sponsored by General Tire, anywhere is possible. And Red Ox Manufacturing, made to endure or not at all. In association with Come Up Winch, work tough, play tough. And Alamosa Antenna, the ultimate adventure radio antenna. The team has just reunited in Fairbanks, Alaska. They meet after a week-long journey for Oakley and Talon transporting the cars north and AM flights for Jacob, Carson, and Nelson. Everybody is experiencing varying levels of fatigue, but it's time to hit the ground running. Stacy needs repairs, and the team has a lot of miles to cover before the day is over.
Alright, we're rolling.
You want to explain what's going on camera?
So, we have Old Man Emu 882 coils up front, which are the heaviest duty coil that you can get for a first gen Tacoma. But we have a winch, a supercharger, 2 batteries, front bumper, skid plates. We just have more weight than they can compensate for. So I called Cruiser Outfitters in Salt Lake City, had them set aside some 883s, which are for a 3rd gen 4Runner. My wife picked them up, Nelson picked them up from my house, and Nelson flew up here with them in his bag, had his socks all inside of them, and now we're running to the Toyota store to see if they will swap them out for us, so that we stop rubbing, because the whole way up, anytime we hit a dip, anytime we turn, there's big rubbing to the point where one of the tires is starting to get a little bit chunked. So before we set out on the Dalton Highway, we have to fix that, because we'll burn through a tire on the Dalton Highway doing
that. Oakley texted me and asked me how I would feel about carrying on 2 springs on my flight to Alaska, and I told him I'd see what I could do. I ended up stuffing my socks into the springs to make room for them in my carry-on. My carry-on probably weighed 80 pounds, but I think me and Oakley have kind of embodied like whatever comes, we're gonna take it with a smile, we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, so I just stopped by the Toyota store to see if they could do this for me. Told them I'd have the springs off, I'd have everything ready to go, and just need the top hat taken off and replaced. And they said, no, we can't do that for you. Even if we wanted to, you'd have to wait till next week. And even if you waited till next week, you'd be a walk-in without an appointment. So there's no way we could get it done in the hour or so that you need it done in. Which is unfortunate, but such is life.
There was some creativity required in making these repairs due to the limited tools and help in Fairbanks, but we managed to get Stacy in a much better position for taking on the legendary Dalton Highway. Having lost time to repairs, we wasted no more in getting to the Dalton and putting Fairbanks in the rear view.
Hold on 1 second. All right, go ahead.
At this point, the excitement for the start of the journey becomes palpable, dismissing any fatigue from travel or frustration from repairs.
Yeah, so we're just leaving the Elliott Highway, entering the Dalton Highway, which is just the road that leads to Prudhoe Bay or Dead Horse. Pretty much parallels the Alaska pipeline the whole way up from where we are, and it's the only access to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, which is the northernmost point that you can drive in North America.
I think we gotta like start carrying a bucket of water in the squeegee.
The Dalton Highway is a story best told through experience. Our experience began as one of slick mud and heavy rain, but once the rain let up, the road conditions became more welcoming, just in time for us to cross the Yukon River and enter the Arctic Circle. The grandeur of an unyielding force like the Yukon is hard to put into words. The river has forced the Alaskan backcountry to yield to its path, and we found ourselves hoping to cross it at least once, maybe twice more, but such a meeting isn't in the cards for anyone traveling on the Dalton Highway. As you can see, the views from the Yukon River camp to the Arctic Circle and beyond only improve. Dusk brings low visibility on a road that necessitates active and attentive drivers. However, this utilitarian road doesn't offer many options for camping. The first pullout we found suitable for camp made for quite a memorable one. We set up camp along a river under the Alaskan pipeline. This would be one of our favorite campsites of this leg. Who can say they've camped under the Alaskan pipeline? Or had a campsite that offered light to fish at midnight?
Go get a picture of that. Is my sleeping stuff still in there?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's been a week of just hopping into bed, or getting the campsite at 11:30, eating, and then hopping into bed. All within 30 minutes from 11:30 to 12.
That's my grandma. And an Apple AirTag is following me, so that's all.
After some rest, the team breaks camp in light that could suggest midday, but instead is closer to about 9 in the morning. Ambitious to cover miles, we had pushed the truck as far as possible the night before, which means using some of our reserved fuel to make it to Coldfoot today. We put a few gallons in Bountiful, and Oakley bets on Stacy making the 30 miles to Coldfoot on empty.
So yesterday we flew into Fairbanks, met up with the team, drove from Fairbanks to probably 30 miles south of Coldfoot. We just drove along the Dalton Highway. There were some pretty incredible views. The road was pretty interesting to say the least. We were being rained out half the time. It's mostly gravel, dodging potholes. You have to be really attentive as a driver. The portion I would say of the Dalton Highway that stood out to me the most so far is when we crossed the Yukon River. The Yukon is just massive, and I don't know that words would really do justice to its size, but it was pretty beautiful. When we got to the Arctic Circle, it was probably 10:30 at night, and it was still light out, like full daylight, and it really confused my body, because I was wide awake at that point, even though me and Carson had flown into Fairbanks at like 2 a.m. And then even when we got to camp later that night, probably 11:30, it was still light enough for me and Oakley to fish off the river for a bit. And even when we went to bed, I know that it was light out when I went to bed. So it's just interesting to be in an area in the world that has a completely different daylight schedule than what you're used to.
Despite being an oil pipeline supply road, the Dalton Highway isn't littered with gas stations and convenience stores. There are 2 stops for fuel, the Yukon River Camp and Coldfoot Camp. We stopped at both. The team grabs snacks from a limited selection, takes advantage of the cell service, and fills up the trucks for the last time before Prudhoe Bay. This is the most expensive gas on the Dalton Highway at $7.50 a gallon.
I have been. When you guys were going through the water, I was falling with the tires. It's coming.
It looks like one of the bolts that holds the heat shield in. They go top down from inside the truck, and then they just have a nut that holds the heat shield to the body. It looks like one of them has either rusted out or pulled out or something, so it's slapping against the exhaust pipe. And I have no way to secure it now from the top, so I'm actually just gonna, these will probably melt, but I'm just gonna zip tie it to the exhaust pipe so that it's not rattling. Give it a shot.
Beyond Coldfoot, it feels like we want to stop around every bend in the road. The views of the mountains are incredible. The Alaskan pipeline that parallels the road about 100 yards on either side oddly has a beauty all of its own. The Brooks Range is then an epic obstacle impeding the Dalton Highway's path, as Adigan Pass cuts its way right over and through the mountains. It's fitting that as the trucks summit the pass, there are several mountain goats off the side of the road watching us climb their mountain. We like to think that they give their nod of approval. Stopping at the top to take in the views, we run an inventory of the trucks and decide to let some air out of the tires, feeling that the road conditions are taking a toll on them.
30 or 35, I'm at 40.
It's just hard to predict when this road is going to be paved or not. It doesn't ever make sense when it is.
Even on pavement though, I'd run 18 on pavement with these. With how bad the road is up here.
Been doing 60.
north side of Adigan Pass on the awful gravel road, if you could call it that. Just talking about how it's incredibly beautiful. Two of the group members who've never been here before both said that it's among the most beautiful mountain ranges they've ever been through. Fun fact, the Brooks Range and the Uinta Range both run east-west, which is rare among mountain ranges.
Another fun fact, if you're friends with Oakley long enough, you'll hear that fact about 900 times.
In the typical fashion of making no sense as to why the road is in good or bad health, just before Dead Horse we touched down on an immaculately paved stretch of road. This parallels the Sag River, which looks attractive for camping. We settled on a spot that only offered a few feet to the road on one side and the river on the other. We choose our campsite for a false sense of security that the running water will keep us away from mosquitoes. As soon as we open the doors, we find out we're wrong.
That is disgusting. Lift your head up. No, turn back around. That is so yucky.
Are you on me again?
No, it's just like problem solved.
That's a bold place to stand.
It's for my mom.
Oh, hey mom.
All right, viewers. This is what we call a prime example of natural selection. Take a quick look at his foot placement.
Hey, start kicking on the one he's standing on.
Yeah. Nah, that's a liability. 10 o'clock at night. Still this bright out. We're probably within 10 or 15 miles of Dead Horse, so when we're this far north, we really have no idea what time it is based on the sunlight. So that's what we're working with for bedtime and see if we can get some shut-eye.
Ah, shit.
Pull it down. I can't count high enough to count all the mosquitoes around us. Like, I was just looking at Nelson in his tent. There have to be. I just sprayed my hands and I'm still getting bit. Thanks, tell him let me borrow it. I think I'm gonna go crazy.
On an expedition like this, you'll often find you and your team or your partner discussing whether or not stopping is worth it. Can you afford it financially, given the coming expenses of the travel ahead? Can you make up the miles you will lose by trading such time? For many reasons, we debated setting aside time to take a tour of the Arctic Ocean, but all ultimately agreed it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And we weren't wrong. We'll never forget that dip or our tour guide.
18 inches down in most places. Some variation to that, but about 18 inches down. And permafrost allows no water to drain. And even though it's dry today, you can see it's still overcast.
I know.
That's what I want to do. Good idea.
Well, come on, boys, don't be shy.
Holy. Oh my gosh.
It's cold.
Well, boys, welcome to the edge of the world.
Thank you.
Oakley.
That's me. Thanks, boss.
You. Talent.
Ooh, polar bear. Let's go.
After joining the Polar Plunge Club, we make our way to the Dead Horse Point C-Store. There, we load up on snacks, shirts, patches, and whatever else we'll need for our drive south. Out front is an iconic sticker wall that says "End of the Road" that we add our sticker to. For some, or most, this is the official end of the Pan American Highway. But for us, this is the beginning. Mile 1, Day 1. From this point on, our Pan American expedition becomes an exclusively southern journey.